Hi, so welcome to the next topic in pharmacology, which is the introduction to autonomic nervous system. Now, autonomic nervous system, what is the meaning of the word autonomic? Means that something which is working on its own, so we have a central nervous system which is controlled by the center, the brain basically. And then we have another system which is autonomic, which is not under the direct control of brain as such, but it is its own, it is its own kingdom here, and it functions on its own terms and conditions. So it is autonomous, ठीक है? हम कहते हैं autonomous body है, अपने आप function करती है, ठीक है? So it doesn't have any, godfather or something like that. So similarly, we have the autonomic nervous system. Now, the autonomic nervous system, they are of, broadly we speak of two types, there is a third type also. The first one is a sympathetic nervous system. The other one is the parasympathetic nervous system. And the third is, it's not a very prominent one, but it is another one which is called as the enteric nervous system. So enteric ka matlab hi hai ki this is found in the GIT. This is in the GIT. It's a separate type of system. It has its own, it governs its own function as such. Now, major two are the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. So what are they, and why do we call them parasympathetic, and what is the difference between the two, parasympathetic and the sympathetic? So in this particular video, we're going to talk about their major, introduction, that what they are actually. So let's say this is our, I have made this is the brain, and this is in the brain stem. This is the brain stem here, the pink ones here, right? This is the brain stem. And then we have the spinal cord, the long spinal cord, which is this one, right? Now, the brainstem has the nuclei, the cranial nuclei, and जो cranial nuclei हम ये 4 बात कर रहे हैं. This is C3, C7, C9 and C10. So these 4 and S2, S3, S4, the sacral ones. So together they form the parasympathetic nervous system. So cranial and sacrum together. So we call them as the craniosacral outflow. So craniosacral outflow is actually the parasympathetic nervous system. While, the thoracolumbar, these are the thoracic, these are the nuclei and the lumbar. And this is called as the thoracolumbar outflow. The fibers from this thoracolumbar outflow, they constitute the sympathetic nervous system, while craniosacral is for the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay? Craniosacral is parasympathetic and thoracolumbar is sympathetic. So this is their origin, difference in their origins, right? So this is a difference in their origins. Now, what is the other difference here? If you talk about the supply, कहाँ पे supply करते हैं? So mainly, अगर parasympathetic organs की बात करें, let's say it supplies here the pupil and supplies the muscles. Okay, so let's say it supplies the pupil, it supplies the various skeletal muscles. So how it does that? Okay, suppose we say that parasympathetic system, when it is stimulated, it leads to constriction of the pupil, meiosis जिसको कहते हैं. So how is it done? So these, let's draw this. Okay, so these are the fibers. So these are the fibers, and फिर यहाँ से they go into they relay here. Okay? So we have two types of fibers. So this round structure here is called as the ganglia. ganglion rather. ठीक है? So there is a ganglion in the center. So the fibers originate from any of the cranial nerves. ठीक है? 3, 7, 9 or 10. They will synapse in the ganglion, and then दोबारा से यहाँ से fiber निकलता है और it goes directly into the organ and it causes the constriction. So it is carrying the stimulus from here, message यहाँ से आके ultimately यहाँ पे जाता है. ठीक है? So you're sending a message from here to here, and बीच में it gets intercepted or it gets stimulated by the ganglia. Right? Now इसने मैसेज दिया यहाँ पे और यहाँ से हो गया pupil तक पहुँच गया. It leads to constriction of the pupil. Now कैसे हुआ constriction of the pupil? Because the message कैसे transfer होता है in the neurons. How do the neurons talk to each other? It is by action potential. So action potential moves from here. ठीक है? It is stimulated, and यहाँ पे there is a synapse. So there must be some neurotransmitter which is relieved. So see, talking जो within the nerve जो message transfer होता है, that is by action potential. But from one neuron to the other, it is via neurotransmitter. So अगर ये nerve के अंदर ही जो अगर ये message है वो action potential के through जाएगा, पर अगर एक nerve से neuron से दूसरे neuron तक जाना है तो it will talk via its neurotransmitter. So this is a ganglion, and this nerve here, fiber here, it releases a neurotransmitter. This neurotransmitter is going to stimulate this particular nuclei here. ठीक है? The post synaptic neuron यहाँ पे stimulate होता है, and ये message carry करता है to the pupil to cause the constriction. So this is called as the preganglionic fiber. ठीक है? Because this is before the ganglion, and this is called as a postganglionic fiber because this is after the ganglion. So you see here in the parasympathetic nervous system, the preganglionic fiber, they are much longer as compared to the postganglionic fiber. So ganglion जो है, it lies near to the organs of supply. ठीक है? This is what happens here. Now if we come to the let's say the sympathetic system. Now sympathetic system, if you see, these are the ganglions here which I have drawn. Like for example these 3, it's a ganglion body, and this ganglion lies much more closer to the spinal cord and very far from the organs. So let's say यहाँ से आ रहा है, again this is going to relay here. So again this is a relaying here. ठीक है? In the ganglion. These are again the ganglions. These are the ganglia, the plural ganglia. So the preganglionic fiber is much smaller, and then यहाँ से जाएंगे and they will go to their organ. जो भी organ है उसको supply करते हैं. And this is the postganglionic fiber. So they see this is much longer as compared to the parasympathetic nervous system. So any organ यहाँ पे हो सकता है. Sympathetic system is very well, functional in the heart, in the blood vessels or various visceras. Right? Blood vessels हो गया, various visceras हो गए, यहाँ पे supply करता है. So this is what it does. Now ये हमने देख लिया कि कैसे pathway है, ये action potential के again through जाता है. Now अगर हम ये ganglion को, the ganglion, this ganglion, अगर हम इसको enlarge करके देखते हैं, ठीक है? Let's enlarge करते हैं कि यहाँ पे actually how are they talking to each other? What are they doing here? And then we'll come back to this diagram again. So what actually happens here? ठीक है? It's a magnified view of the ganglion. Okay, so what is happening here? So this is the presynaptic thing. जो अगर हमने ऐसे किया था ना, this one here, like this. So this one is the presynaptic and this is the postsynaptic neuron. And this is बीच में, this is the synaptic left. So when the action potential is traveling from the preganglionic fiber, there are neurotransmitters present in the vesicles. Now, in the parasympathetic nervous system, the preganglionic fibers are acetylcholine. And also in the sympathetic system, the preganglionic fibers are acetylcholine. So, चाहे वो parasympathetic हो, चाहे वो sympathetic हो, जो preganglionic fibers जो neurotransmitter release करते हैं, it is always acetylcholine. So remember, it's the universal neurotransmitter for the preganglionic fiber. It is always acetylcholine. And acetylcholine in the ganglion acts on its receptors. So ganglion में जो receptors होते हैं, they are nicotinic receptors, and they are type N. So we'll be doing them later. So nicotinic receptors type N, they are present in the ganglions. ठीक है? So this is acetylcholine, and acetylcholine जब action potential आता है यहाँ पे, and there is stimulation, and it leads to entry of calcium. ठीक है? And calcium is responsible for fusion of the vesicles with this membrane. इस membrane को और इस vesicle को they get fused together, and when they get fused together, it leads to release of acetylcholine. ठीक है? So there is action potential, there is entry of calcium, it leads to fusion of the vesicles. Vesicles will go closer to the membrane over here. They will try to fuse, and there will be exit of the acetylcholine into the synaptic cleft. So when it is into the synaptic cleft, this acetylcholine is going to act on the nicotinic N type of receptors. इस पे act करते हैं nicotinic N type of receptors. Now जो nicotinic N type of receptors होते हैं, these receptors are ligand gated receptors. So they require the attachment of acetylcholine, and they they have in their structure, what happens, this is they have pentamer, 5 units होते हैं. These are the 2 alpha units, और इनके बीच में there is a channel 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. This is a pentamer. 2 alpha units, they are enclosing a channel for the sodium ions. We have a beta, we have a gamma, and we have a delta. So there are 5 subunits in the N type of receptor. So when acetylcholine binds to the alpha subunit, they will lead to opening of the channels, because abhi जो alpha subunits थे, they were overlapping the channel. They were closing the channel. So when the acetylcholine binds to the alpha unit, it will move apart and it will open the channel. And जब channel open हो जाएगा, it is a channel for sodium ions. Sodium ions are going to go from outside to inside. So this is how, let's say when they are stimulated, they cause opening of the sodium channels, and sodium is going to move inside. And when sodium move inside, there is going to be a lot of positive charge, और जब भी sodium move करता है inside, it leads to depolarization. Positive charge, it causes depolarization or excitation, and this leads to the firing of the action potential. So this action potential is going to be fired here, and it is going to stimulate the pupil, and it causes constriction of the pupil. Okay, so this is going to happen here. Now the same thing happens here also. Okay, but the only difference is that because action potential तो यहाँ भी fall होगा, मगर जो post ganglionic fibers, what neurotransmitter do they release at the organ site, that is different between sympathetic and parasympathetic. So that makes the difference. और अगर वो sympathetic है तो यहाँ पे भी acetylcholine ही release होगा. But if they are sympathetic fibers, then they are going to release noradrenaline. That's the major difference. That's why they are classified into sympathetic and parasympathetic. Preganglionic are going to release the same neurotransmitter in the ganglion, But the postganglionic fibers, it will depend whether they are sympathetic or parasympathetic, and the neurotransmitter release would be according to that. Because acetylcholine at here, it is going to act either on the muscarinic receptors or its nicotinic receptors. While जो noradrenaline है जो वो release होते हैं, it has got its different receptors, alpha or beta receptors. It will produce effects according to that. Now noradrenaline, mostly sympathetic system, nervous system में ऐसा ही है कि जो postganglionic fibers है, they are going to release noradrenaline. But there are exceptions to the rule. So there are 3 exceptions you remember, and the 3 exception you can remember by RAS. RAS में the postganglionic fibers do not release noradrenaline. R stands for kidneys. Renal में, kidneys में, or in the renal blood vessels basically. The end or the neurotransmitter at the end is dopamine. This is adrenal glands. आते वो यहीं से हैं, but यहाँ पे जाके when they go into adrenal medulla, what happens? They are going to release, यहाँ पे acetylcholine ही आता है. Sweat glands, acetylcholine. The end, the terminal area में जहाँ पे end पे है, the neurotransmitter is acetylcholine. So we can say that these are the 3 exceptions, let's say, to the rule. 3 exceptions to the rule is RAS, renal blood vessels, adrenal and sweat glands. Otherwise, बाकी सारे sympathetic जो fibers हैं, they are all going to release noradrenaline at the end, right? So here, if I want to make it more clear, parasympathetic nervous system, ठीक है? So neurotransmitter in the preganglionic, let's say preganglionic axon, जो क्या रिलीज होता है? एसिटाइलकोलिन. और पोस्ट गैंग्लियोनिक क्या करेगा रिलीज? फाइबर भी एसिटाइलकोलिन ही करेगा. सिंपैथेटिक नर्वस सिस्टम, in the preganglionic neuron, the neurotransmitter is acetylcholine, while the postganglion में the neurotransmitter is noradrenaline. Exception to the rule is RAS. Very important to remember, which is the renal blood vessels, where it is dopamine, adrenal glands, where it is acetylcholine, and sweat glands, where again it is acetylcholine. So this is the major difference, and this is very, very important to remember. And parasympathetic nervous system is craniosacral flow. Sympathetic is thoracolumbar, right? That's another difference between the two. Another difference, you can say preganglionic fibers are much longer as compared to postganglionic fibers. While in the sympathetic system, the preganglionic fibers are less in length as compared to the postganglionic fibers. Okay, so this is these are the main points about the parasympathetic and the sympathetic nervous system. And remember that in the ganglion, here in the ganglion, we have the receptors are N-type, nicotinic but N-type. ठीक है, nicotinic भी 2 types के होते हैं. So here it is nicotinic N-type, and here जो post at the organ site, what happens? The acetylcholine can act on any of the receptors, whether it is muscarinic or nicotinic. We are going to do the details when we do these systems in details. And if it is noradrenaline, there are different subsets of receptors, which is alpha and beta. Okay, so these are the general points about the autonomic nervous system. Sympathetic, parasympathetic. बॉडी में सिंपैथेटिक भी है, बॉडी में पैरासिम्पैथेटिक भी है. सिंपैथेटिक और क्या डिफरेंस है, ये आपको क्वेश्चन इंपॉर्टेंट आना चाहिए. प्री गैंग्लियोनिक न्यूरॉन में, विच इज अ मेजर न्यूरोट्रांसमीटर यूनिवर्सली, इट इज एसिटाइलकोलिन. while the difference जो इनको segregate करता है between sympathetic and parasympathetic is actually the neurotransmitter which is released at the end, at the organ site, right? So in the next lecture we are going to start with the parasympathetic nervous system. Okay, thank you.